Hello everyone, it's Jasmine. Welcome back to my handmade card series for 2016. This is going to be card 5 in the series, and I'm going to go with a Hanukkah theme. And we're starting out with some plain white cardstock and Cosmic Shimmer liquid glue. And we're going to use some gilding flakes. This is a little bit different. It's kind of an experiment when I did this. I wasn't sure how it would work, but I really liked my results. And this is going to be a full panel of basically gilded cardstock is what it turns out to be. So we're using IndigoBlu gilding flakes, and this is Lancashire Rose is the color of it. It's gold and copper, a little bit of a rose gold tone in there sometimes. I picked out some of the different colors and tried to make those a little more visible within the gold. This glue is super sticky, and you want to let it get tacky for a few minutes before you apply your gilding flakes. And this little black sponge I'm using is just a corner of the Rub It Scrub It sponge by Ranger. You just cut off a chunk of it. So use the rough side to kind of break up the flakes and smooth them out over the glue, and you'll get a cohesive look that way. Really easy to do, really simple. The only thing you need to make sure is you don't have any fans going or drafts, because it will blow the flake just all over the place. So I went in a second time with the sponge just to make sure I got off any spare edges or anything like that. And it's really pretty, really shiny. You can see all the different colors in it. Just gorgeous. So next I'm going to do is go in with the Star of David set by Casual Fridays. And I'm going to use this 6-pointed star strip. And they're different sizes, different designs. And I've got some vellum with Stick It adhesive on the back. This is a sheet adhesive. Super thin, excellent for die cutting. Love this stuff. So using Versamark, I'm going to stamp that down using my Misty. You can see all the little stars there. And then I'm going to heat emboss this using Twilight Blue Slate embossing powder from Lindy Stamp Gang. And this turns out to be like a gray blue metallic, and it's got a really pretty shift in the light. And I think it plays really gorgeously against the super shiny gold of the background. Helps to create a really high contrast. And it's especially true for vellum. But whenever you heat emboss, you want to let your gun get good and hot, so run it for a good 30 seconds before you apply it to your paper, because vellum warps easier than other papers. The vellum I use is a high quality vellum. It's a little bit thicker than other vellums I've tried. So it doesn't warp as easily, but as you can see, just about any vellum warps. So more heat, less time equals less warping. And this is a panel of Simon Says Stamp soft navy cardstock, and I'm using the middle of it to stamp the sentiment, which is from the same stamp set, the Star of David by Casual Fridays. And I'm going to heat emboss that using Ranger Superfine Gold embossing powder. And I stamped that in the middle because I'm going to use the outside of it for the frame that we're going to cut using a die. And it just makes it easier, kind of double use for the cardstock, and you're not wasting so much of it that way. And this little frame is from a Sizzix frame set that I've had forever. So here are all my pieces, and there's the frame. Now that is the negative piece to the die cut. So when you have your panel, you want to make sure it's cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then try to get your die as centered as possible so you get an even amount of cardstock around the outside edge. So I've got my strip here. I just trimmed down each side using my paper trimmer. And then because I've got the stick it on the back, it creates a sticker. So I use the edge to fold down one end and then trim off a little bit of the backing paper, stick it down, and then I can use the backing paper on the rest of it to attach the rest of the vellum to the gilded flake panel. So using the stick it on the back creates a sticker, and it just makes it so much easier to adhere down to your cardstock. And you don't necessarily see the adhesive, which is why I like stick it so much. So I'm using some Scor-tape, and this is a 1/2 inch wide around all the edges because it did warp a little bit while the glue was drying, so this just helps it lay flat. And Scor-tape is my favorite dry adhesive. Super strong. Nothing falls apart with this stuff. Which also, you need to bear that in mind when using it, because if you stick something down using Scor-tape, you're not going to get it back up without damaging something. And I do burnish it down with a bone folder just to make sure it's good and stuck. And then I remove the Scor-tape and place it down on my backer panel of the card base. And the white cardstock I'm using for the card base and the panel behind the gilding flake is Neenah Solar White 110 pound cardstock. So here is my frame, and I had my card base just a tiny bit wide, so I just lined up my frame and then took a pencil and drew a straight line across where I need to trim it, and then just use my paper trimmer to trim it off. Easy peasy. The die I used for the frame is Mama Elephant's Creative Cuts Pika Frame dies, and this creates like a postage stamp edge. And I do apologize, I meant to get the die on camera, but I did not. So using some 1/4 inch Scor-tape on the back of that frame to stick it down. And I chose to use a Hanukkah set for this, mostly because there's not a lot of Hanukkah cards on social media or in tutorials, so I didn't want to leave our Jewish friends out. Maybe you have Jewish friends or you're Jewish yourself and you wanted some ideas, so hopefully this gives you some. That was the intention behind the card. You can find Christmas everywhere, but there's not too much celebrating the Jewish Hanukkah tradition. So I just wanted to do that a little bit. Using some foam dots to stick down the sentiment panel, and that completes our card. So leave me any questions in the description box and I will be doing my best to answer those. So happy Hanukkah to my Jewish friends, Merry Christmas to my Christmas friends, and we will see you next time. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.